Instead of looking at the will of an entire system of government acting faster than any other government on the planet could, we are 1 month later still busy bashing the few local government officials in Wuhan who should have told us a couple weeks sooner. And again, all our hearts go out, even a moment of silence, for Dr. Li Wenliang, who died. The vast majority of people who are getting a very bad reaction to this virus are older, but there's a few who are younger, like Dr. Wenliang, who was in his mid-30s. This is very, very terrible. Yes, it's true those local officials screwed up, and by the way, those officials are in deep trouble for it. We're all discussing it here. It's being discussed on the news in China. No one's hiding it. It happened. No one's more angry about it than the Chinese government and system itself. Just like the recent Puerto Rico politicians who are in trouble when we learned that they didn't distribute hurricane emergency supplies, which is exactly what President Trump's administration was saying from the very beginning. They were incompetent down there, and then they're blaming everybody else. Okay? It's a disgrace. But that's the disgrace of individual people screwing up all the time, and hopefully justice gets served later. That's not an indictment of an entire country's government. Secondly, on this point, every provincial government has sent out a notice to its government officials pretty much saying that if they're stupid enough to do the same thing, they're going to face the wrath of harsh punishment. I don't doubt it for a moment. Let's contrast this to, again, other countries where what? Countless Western politicians have gotten away with and remain with what? We don't want to talk about it. It's so aggravating. And they remain in office. And it reminds us, to remind all of us that human error, stupidity, and greed is not unique to any particular skin color or race or country. Thank you very much. None of this should even be being discussed during a human crisis. That's the part that's so bad. Well, here's the mic drop on the numbers. The CDC researchers estimate that the H1N1 2009 pandemic virus caused 201,200 respiratory deaths and another 83,300 deaths from cardiovascular disease associated with H1N1 infections. Total 284,000 deaths. Shocking, isn't it? Was there a travel ban for any length of time to and from the United States? Nope. Did China, Germany, Japan, or any other country close their border to American travelers? Nope. Today I noticed in the updates, this was a few days ago when I wrote the article, that following the United States Department of State policy suggesting that U.S. citizens leave China, the United Kingdom Embassy just released the same recommendation to subjects of the kingdom. They're called subjects. Again, did any embassy or consulate tell UK people or French people or German people or Japanese people who were living in America in 2009 that they should leave the country? No. Did the world suggest we isolate from America, close the U.S. borders? No. Should there be some control, some possibly, of shutting things down, reducing the flow of people? Yes. That's not my complaint. I'm not saying there shouldn't have been. We could learn. And maybe we should. That isn't my point. My point is the anti-China negative rhetoric that underpins the criticisms, the attacks, the xenophobic attacking that's going on. That doesn't go on and didn't go on toward Americans. If you're an expat currently in China, unless you're in Wuhan where things are really, really bad, but of course you don't want to be there. I mean, that's really, it's really strict there and it's scary. The fact is you're most likely safer like I am, like we are, and more peaceful and more stable by simply staying put than by leaving right now. I know someone who was in Beijing, and their friend said, just stay put. We're very comfortable in our apartment complex here. There's nobody around. Everybody's home. This is the place to stay. Hunker down for a couple of weeks. Enjoy yourself. Do all those things you didn't have time to do before. No, I want to leave. And then they left, and they fly into the Hong Kong airport, and then there was some other control measure on the border of the country where they were going, and then they ended up getting stuck. I have a friend in Mesa, Arizona. He told me earlier that the big, popular China City Buffet, a huge busy place, has no customers. Chinese restaurant buffet in Mesa, Arizona. What the hell does that make any sense? Let's test our ability to be reasonable and rational. If you were in Miami, Florida, and you heard that there was a virus outbreak that started in Milan in northern Italy, would you cancel your dinner reservations at the Italian restaurant in Miami? Would you buy the pizza next week at Joey's Pizzeria in Miami? Because of the virus that you heard about that was in Milan, in Italy, 6,000 miles away? If you were in Singapore and you heard there was a virus outbreak in Dallas, Texas, in the central United States, would you stop going to your favorite local Texas Southern barbecue restaurant with the owner from Houston in Singapore? Would you avoid olive-skinned, dark-haired, Italian-looking people on the street in Chicago? Would you avoid big guys wearing cowboy hats because they're obviously from Texas in Singapore because there's a virus in Dallas and they might have just gotten off the plane? There is a strange, senseless bullying and extremism and activism that has gone into Western society. We all know what I'm talking about. It's fomented by a small group of extremist activists, and while definitely not supported by your average mainstream person who is simply, starting with me and apparently all of you, exhausted by their outrage-inducing antics and shock headlines. When this becomes mainstream and normal in the society's sick, and that's the problem. I'm going to leave that part for you to keep thinking about. Okay, moving on. Finally, here are some straight up, sensible, accurate descriptions of this coronavirus that I'm giving you, which started in Wuhan, China. It is not called the China virus, and neither was H1N1 called the America virus. And nor it's not called a Wuhan virus either. It's not called a Phoenix virus or a Chicago virus. Whether it's 2 weeks or 2 months from now, this flu season type virus will have passed, and the joy of spring will have arrived, just like every season. However, don't misunderstand me. The extra caution and the remarkable response by the Chinese governments and people together to quell the spread of this virus was warranted, because it is correct that we can tell this coronavirus is nastier than the usual annual flu bug. This we know, as was H1N1 in 2009. As of now, what we can confidently note regarding this coronavirus. This coronavirus is highly contagious. It spreads quite easily. It binds to lung tissue, meaning it likes to cause pneumonia. That's what infection of lung tissue is called, pneumonia. That's more severe than a respiratory infection, which is only in your throat or bronchial tubes. The coronavirus seems to, even up till today, has about a 2% death rate. That's a lot higher, around 20 times higher than a more typical annual flu influenza virus, which has typically a death rate of around 0.1%. However, a 2% death rate is still much lower by comparison to the SARS virus, with a 9% death rate, or the MERS virus with a really nasty 37% death rate. And of course, we know that Ebola has an even higher death rate. The coronavirus is causing severe symptoms in 10 to 15% of cases. 80 to 90% of those deaths from this virus are happening in elderly patients, mostly who are weak and frail with other existing health problems already, not younger people. But that's just mostly. There are exceptions, as again, God rest his soul and bless his family, Dr. Li Wenliang and some other young people, the younger people that we know, did die from this virus. That characteristic, by the way, is in contrast to the 2009 H1N1 swine flu virus, which in fact had a higher death rate amongst younger people, including children, rather than those over 60 years of age. So again, that's one of the other reasons why that was a really nasty one. China identified and shared the coronavirus genome in record time. Fact. And in only a few days, and immediately shared it with all international health and disease organizations. Medical researchers are already discovering that certain existing antiviral medications seem to be effective against this coronavirus. That's all ongoing. But this is a much better situation in this respect than compared to SARS, where it took them 3 months until April to even identify the genome back then. Okay, so the genome was already in record time, and they by the way, attribute that to improvements in technology, from what I think I read. Folks, it's impossible not to marvel at the broad and aggressive response directed by provincial level government officials in China to restrict movement, to restrict transportation, to restrict business. That's what they've done. Shut it all down, including schools, for a period of time, combined with the voluntary dutiful cooperation of China's 1.3 billion citizens, who are in the majority, quietly staying at home these weeks to let the virus pass. This is no fun. This is a little bit nerve-wracking for people. In fact, the measures that we are taking as people to protect us, we live in this apartment complex. The gate, now they say, at the gate, they take your temperature when you leave, when you come back. And they only want you to go out one person at a time, not in groups, to go shopping and come back. I mean, they're being that strict. I mean, I'm talking about right here in my own apartment complex, and this is being replicated all over the country. If you go in a taxi, they're giving you a receipt and putting your name in the app so that they know where you're going. So, my God, that's horrible China communism. No, it's to protect you, you idiot. Because you don't want to get in the taxi because they're tracking the people who got sick. Okay? Because this is infectious. You understand? So, if you got in a car and went to if they find out you're infected, then they can go back and say, well, where was this guy? Oh, well, he had gotten in this car 2 days ago, and he went to this location. You see, they can track because they want to track who got infected. Where did this person go to be spreading it to other people where they didn't know? You understand? This is to help people. This is to protect us. And these are temporary measures. They'll be done hopefully pretty quick. It's an incredible thing that's happening. Like I said, a case study that's going to get a case study for research and discussion for a long time. Amazing. And in terms of governance and how to respond to something like this. My words are, this model response is already being hailed by the international community as a remarkable, unprecedented response. And again, it's annoying, it's tough, it's inconvenient in a lot of ways. Setting a new standard in understanding what's possible for future outbreaks in whatever country they may occur. Is it convenient and costly? You bet. And it even is to protect the rest of the world, isn't it? I'm waiting for thank you. I'm waiting for it. Not anti-China sentiment. Like I said, something's not right with the way humanity is responding to what's happening here. I haven't put my finger on it exactly. I won't do that in this video, in this article, because I say, well, it's certainly complex, and the world is upside down in many other ways that I also can't for the life of me understand or explain without ending up writing a very thick, fat book. But I do know this. It needs to stop. It needs to stop. The vicious political, xenophobic, racist attacks and smearing of all things China needs to stop. It's really not helping anyone in the political corridors of Washington or any other country, nor is it doing anything to help the man on the street, me, who just wants to take care of their family. And when I say me, of course, I mean all of us, right? My family is originally from the Basilicata region of Italy, the little hillside Italian towns of Potenza and also Grottola. which is outside of Matera. I am Italian American. My Italian ancestors, 4 generations ago, they left their home country and moved to America, where I was born in Yonkers, New York. Yonkers. America became their home, and it was my home until I left too. And now, over 2 decades ago, I had left the United States myself, the country I was born in, a country that has plenty to admire and plenty to improve, like any country. But I left, and I came to China, and now China is my home. If you had asked me this 30 years ago, if this was my life plan on planet Earth, I would have said you were nuts or a really bad fortune teller. But that's how it's turned out. I am truly blessed with my lovely Chinese wife and our family living here in Shenyang. My family is the most important thing in the world to me. I do everything I do to take care of my family. There isn't anything complicated or hard to understand about that, is there? You get my meaning? I am a mature adult like many others with the powers of observation. You'll notice from this approach to this article, it's intended to be as neutral and balanced as possible and just talk about truth. I don't want to be leftist. I don't want to be rightist. I'm definitely a centrist. I want to see things as they are. What I don't like is what things that I look at and go, that's wrong. That's what I don't like. I can easily see that whether we're talking about China or the United States or any other country, the societies and the governments have good points and bad points. The xenophobia needs to stop now. Whether in a couple of weeks or months later, this nasty flu-type coronavirus will begin declining and the joy of spring will arrive and we will continue, and it's going to be great. Between now and then, if you don't have anything good, anything supportive to say about China or Chinese people, how about you just keep your mouth shut? Yeah. And that's it, folks. That's the article. That's the sentiment of the article. And thank you so much. How many of you, millions, literally now millions of people all over the world, on all over China. Thank you. 加油中国! 谢谢大家. Bye-bye. Next video soon. See you.